when we're going through something, because we bring our full selves to work, right? I mean, that's just true. If we got domestic abuse going on, if we have a divorce happening, if we have, a just a challenging child, like whatever it may be, we bring that with us to the workplace, whether we want to or not. And so understanding that we bring our full selves to work, what can we do about that as leaders? And I think as there is so much disconnection from one another, I feel like sometimes in those situations, as again, the human experience is we just want someone to sit in the mess with us. We don't even want you to fix something. And AI and all that is really good at tasks and doing tasks. We don't want you to solve this. We just need someone to put their hand on our back and just be there as we're going through it. And that's the authentic thing. That's what we have the opportunity to do in the workplace as well.
Scott, I am so excited to record this episode with you today. I know we're going to talk about authentic leadership and learn about you and your book. Before we dive into all the details and get your insight and wisdom, I'd love for you to share for our audience your journey and what actually brought you to writing the book. What was the calling and the passion for you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, thank you for the opportunity to be with you. Excited to have this conversation with you. For me, I'm always been, I'm an empath anyway, right? So I sort of wear my heart on my sleeve, always have. But I spent 29 years in sports and entertainment, running arenas and performing arts centers throughout the US and Canada. And one of the things that that industry helped me see maybe is that we're all looking for connection in some way. We're all looking to feel connected, whether that's a bunch of people coming together for a Paul McCartney concert or whatever it may be, right? We kind of, or a hockey game or a basketball game. We want that connection with one another. And it seems as though the world is more and more divided than ever, more in silos than ever. A lot of it by choice. In fact, I think a lot of us sort of want, COVID hit and it kind of put us into these little, we're kind of alone, and actually we kind of like it. So it's got so it's an interesting time. But yeah, I spent a lot of time in that industry, and you're always looking for ways to elevate the experience for the people that were coming to the event. Because first and foremost, just getting to a concert venue or a basketball game or whatever it was at the arena, I mean, you got to come home from work. Maybe you got to change. You got to get the babysitter. You got to get, traffic and pay for parking. And there's so much. So by the time you actually walk in the door, you just want an escape. And so we got really good at helping people escape and pouring into them in a way that allows them to feel seen and valued. And I was seeing a big gap in that in my day to day, going into businesses and talking to companies. And it was like, there's a real disconnect here between what you say you are and how you actually function day to day. And that's really what led me to say, okay, time out. We need a realignment here, and let's focus on how we can bring authentic care back into both those that we employ and those that we serve.
I love that, Scott. Definitely can see how a lot of that stems from COVID, which feels like yesterday and
Yeah,
also a million years ago too at the same
it's
time.
true. It's true.
And then I also wonder how much contribute is contributed to social media and how our devices, our platforms make us feel like we're connected and that we know each other. And at the same time, we don't really know each other. I like to think of it as having more opportunity to ignore people and more places where we can ignore each other. And
Right.
the divide there. There's a polarity that is created in an online space where you have more binary options of yes or no, and we're asked to make these decisions or to engage in specific ways that might not come across as genuine or authentic. Then to your point, coming from a marketing and performance theater background myself, I absolutely understand the needing to create an experience and that resonates. And I have also experienced how something that you are promoting and creating for your audience or your customers, clients might not actually be as healthy behind the scenes or backstage, and they might not be aware of
Mm,
that. And where does some of that difference and dissonance come from, beyond just the sort of circumstantial or maybe the tech
right.
that we have invading our lives? Yeah, is that has it always been the case, or is it something that is a little bit newer?
It's interesting because I think you're certainly right in terms of social media and the effect that it has, because it's almost like we have a connection at a distance. And but I think what we as humans what we crave is a connection in person. And actually, as difficult that as that is, and it seems to be maybe more difficult as the generations pop up. It kind of is like this. Just having my son like call his college to try to get a his schedule changed. It's like, oh my gosh, can I text them? Can I email? Anything but call them. And it's like, no, let's actually have a connection. Let's have a conversation. And and so there is this disconnect. And I think it's obviously it's going to get even more interesting as AI creeps in, and not to have a huge AI conversation, but AI is incredible in so many other way in so many ways. And it's also I'm concerned that it is going to be sort of driving us even further away from one another. And my heart is about that authentic care, right? And authentic can be, oh, that's a buzzword and that's overplayed and I get that. But really, at the end of the day, as much as we may push it away, it really is what we want. And when we are going through something, and I'll just say as a employer employee relationship, for example, when we're going through something, because we bring our full selves to work, right? I mean, that's just true. If we got domestic abuse going on, if we have a divorce happening, if we have just a challenging child, like whatever it may be, we bring that with us to the workplace, whether we want to or not. And so understanding that we bring our full selves to work, what can we do about that as leaders? And I think as there is so much disconnection from one another, I feel like sometimes in those situations, as again, the human experience is we just want someone to sit in the mess with us. We don't even want you to fix something. And AI and all that is really good at tasks and doing tasks. We don't want you to solve this. We just need someone to put their hand on our back and just be there as we're going through it. And that's the authentic thing. That's what we have the opportunity to do in the workplace as well. And I would even say to extend to those that we serve in terms of customers or clients, because they're going through things just like we are. And so how can we have our head on a swivel to be able to see those things, to be able to react to them and be present? I think there's a real opportunity for us.
I agree. Something that you've said, that the idea that we have to care for our people is all of our stakeholders, including our customers, our clients, our audience. And I think that's the mark of a great leader is that you care for people and that you're nurturing them. And that can tie into being genuine and authentic. And yet, I would also say that it does tie back to your company goals too, because if you aren't caring for people, then you're not meeting their needs. And if your clients have a pain point, and a challenge or a problem that you can solve in your unique way, then your care can be unique and that connection and loyalty can be strengthened externally with your clients as well as internally with your people too.
Yeah.
And yet again, I hear from a lot of my mentees and from past work experience or people that I work with now who had really challenging work experiences prior to, they have shared that they didn't feel that or there wasn't that connection. And is that because there's a profit over people mentality or we get sidetracked or
Yeah, well,
distracted?
it's funny because I think it's so interesting to me because we call these sort of, the empathy, the compassion, those sort of things, we call them soft skills, but it's actually really hard. It's harder, I should say, than the business side of it, which is the numbers, right? It's math. It's either, if you're trying to hit this goal, and if you didn't hit this goal, okay, what can we cut? What can we trim back on in terms of budget? And that's really simple. And I think we tend to focus on that because it is easier. We can disguise it as, well, we're focused on P&L and the bottom line and other, but it's just easier than it is caring for people. Because what do I do with it? You're coming to me saying that you almost, you took your life over the weekend as an employee. I'm like, okay, what do I do with that? Right? It's so instead of kind of building up that muscle, I think it's just a lot easier to kind of pivot and just focus on the business and think if we just drive people to hit the numbers, then we're doing something right. And really, I think it's just an avoidance, I think is really what it is, because I think you can hit the numbers by caring about your people. It's just going to take a little bit of effort. And it's easy for me to say. look, here's I've said that, I'm an empath at heart. So this is just who I am and the way I lead. I've also seen the results of that way of leading, so that's a good thing. But I think when if you were to say to me, "Hey, Scott, what we're going to do now is we're going to strip away all of that caring about people stuff, and we really need to just focus on the numbers." I'm not your guy. Now, I want to focus on the numbers while caring for people, but if all you want to do is one thing and numbers and analytics, that's not me, and I can't help you there. And I think one of the biggest challenges too is I think there's an avoidance, but I think the other thing is that there's just I don't know how to say, I don't know if it's just an unawareness of like the disconnect between who we say we are as a company, as a business, and how we actually function day to day. It's like we have a lot of really incredible people in executive leadership roles that are creating these values and mission and purpose, and all of those things are great. But it's really for a website or for the office wall. It's not actually, it's aspirational, not operational. So like, how do we actually take those things? And if you're not those things, let's get rid of it and let's rewrite it. But if you are these things, now we've got to, now what do we do with it? Now we've actually got to put it into play, and we've got to filter everything that we do through those values. And there's a real disconnect because that's not happening by and large.
So many great points there. I feel you're right, absolutely right. It's avoidance. And those soft skills, even though they give the impression that they're fluff and it's nice to have, it's harder, I think, in my experience, because you have a more challenging time trying to teach people that. It really has to be something that you develop a self awareness for, which is also a skill. And then once you have that awareness, then you understand how to start developing, or who you need to reach out to mentor and to coach those skills. That's one part of it. And then you mentioned the numbers and data, and I agree there. It resonates so much because, there's a need to get insight and observation, and data, quantitative, the numbers can help us with that foundational raw work where we need to get that insight a little bit faster. Qualitative data is excellent for filling in the gaps and understanding and the context around those numbers that we may be seeing, or maybe we don't have anything quantitative to pin our observations to, so that qualitative data can help us. It only paints partial pictures for us, though, because you have to talk to people and find out what's going on. To your point, you never know what somebody's going through. I like that we're talking about this because I just had a conversation with another guest, and we were talking about you are how you show up in one way or one place is going to be how you show up hopefully everywhere else, and you have some of that consistency. How you do one thing is how you do another. Even though we're complex, and I know there's the duality of man,
Yeah.
we're not
Uh-huh.
always
Correct.
consistent in our approach, but you are going to bring yourself and whatever is on your mind to the workplace and vice versa. And I believe that because I believe our life is our life, and it's not work versus life. Your work life and your personal life have that overlap that I think you're talking about too.
Yes.
Um, yeah, and I've certainly seen people get caught up in the number aspect and lose sight of the whole reason that we can even serve clients and customers is because we have people in those positions able to fulfill the needs, and we need to in turn care for them so that they can care for our customers.
Yeah, and I think trying to treat it in terms of, when you have clients or customers, it's a relationship, not a transaction. And I think we treat it as a transaction. We treat the customer as a means to an end. We treat our employees as a means to an end. And yet there's so much more. It's really sad to me though and it's a mix of sadness and hope. It's sad to me that we have awful customer experience typically everywhere you go for the most part. I mean, it's rare that you get this like, wow, that was pretty incredible. That's awesome. I want to come back here. Like, it just doesn't happen that frequently. And so it's sad in that way, but the hope I have is that it's so easy to do. It's so easy to correct. It's so easy to just care about people. Like, that's the crazy thing. It's like, what's the new strategy? Look, just care about your customer. Treat them just like a transaction. I give you a boba tea and you give me your money and we move on. It's like, how can we make that person feel incredible while they're in front of us? And so there was a story I wrote about in the book, and that was about Nordstrom. And it was a woman who she was a senior, the older lady with her husband who was going to Nordstrom for a semi-annual shoe sale or whatever, right? That they have. And she went into the shoe store and it was packed. I mean, there were people everywhere. And she was just like, you know what? Said to her husband, I'm not, I'm not up for this. I just kind of want to battle. I'm okay. We'll just come back some other time. And right around that time, there was a gentleman that worked at Nordstrom that came over in that department and said, "Hi, ma'am, may I help you?" And she said, well, I was going to get shoes, but it's just too crazy. I'm just going to, I'll just come back another time. And he said, "Man, right now, you're the most important customer in the store that I have, right? So it's like you are my focus. How can I help you specifically?" And because I think most people would just be like, "Oh, okay, come back again next time. We'll have another sale some other time," right? Like, it's like, no, no. In that moment, you're the most important customer that I have. What? Like, and again, how easy is that to do? But again, I think one of the challenges, Rebecca, that we have is that when we talk about these values that we claim to live by or want to anyway, I think part of the problem is that there's no mandate behind them. And so, if you go to a Chick-fil-A and you say something to someone, they're going to say, "My pleasure," right? It's sort of my pleasure is their sort of catchphrase. Everyone knows it because they say it all the time. And, can I have, some ketchup? Yeah, here you got my pleasure, whatever it is. Like it all the time. And it's because it's mandated. It's not optional. It's not one of the choices, right? And I think in the corporate world, a lot of times what we do is we say, this is what we stand for. And it can be anything. And we don't have to get into DEI, but it could be that. It could be it could be the values. But we're not going to do anything to make you actually do that. And so it appears to be optional. I mean, it may be highly encouraged, but in the end, when things are highly encouraged, some do it, some don't, and that's your culture. And so it's not, I'm just trying to get us to think of who are we, first of all, as a company? Who are we really? What do we value? And then actually live that out day to day and actually make it functional in the organization. And where it's not, you put some mandates in place because these are non-negotiable. This is who we are. And if you work here, this is who you are while you're here. But there isn't a lot of that. It's sort of like, this, we feel good. We put people first. We serve and all this stuff. And it's like, nah, not really. And if I could, I'll give you an example. And this, one of the challenges that I see, and it's my experience. I'm not painting a broad brush, but Walmart, for example. So Walmart, the CEO of Walmart was doing an interview with Simon Sinek, and he was asked, I think he said it's like, um, how would you describe, was it Walmart, what Walmart stands for now? And he said, a team dedicated to serving others. And if he had to boil it down to one word, it would be serve. Now that sounds amazing, but my experience at any Walmart I've been to, again, not painting everyone's experience may be different, but serve is not the experience that I encounter. First of all, when I go there, I've got to wrestle one shopping cart from another, could take a while. I mean, that's difficult. And the carts maybe have a wheel that's like squeaking and making noise. And it's an awful experience there. If someone greets you, which they usually don't, it's just almost maybe a head nod. People in the aisleways aren't helping. In fact, they're doing a lot of shopping for curbside pickup. So there's like big carts in your way. And I mean, but here's the CEO of the company saying that if he had to describe it in a word, it would be serve. And I'm like, wow, like that. And that's what I'm talking about. It's like there's such a disconnect between how companies function and who they say they are. How do we bridge that gap? And I'm trying, but I think we've got some work to do.
I agree, we do. Well, I love so many great points that you're making, Scott. I wish we had enough time to really, like, dive even deeper. I think we would need a whole day, if not just a couple of hours, but so, yeah, I'm thinking about my own experiences out in the world, and my husband and I, we love going to Waffle House. We're in Atlanta, so it's like a staple,
Okay.
and it's a
Yeah.
fun Saturday morning, like, go grab breakfast at Waffle House after the gym.
I've never been to Waffle House. I live in Florida and we have them all over. I've never been. I need to do
Well,
that. Sorry.
you have yes, I would definitely say it's an experience, even if it's not something that you want to continue experiencing, at least try it once. And generally, the experience is always great. You have energized staff and folks who are there to serve, and you have I think the meal is good for what you are getting in the experience. It is everything that I expect, right? When folks have that next level service that they can offer you, that can make the experience so much better that you remember it. And we went to one newer location that we'd never been to, and our server, he was in a joyful, happy mood. He was attentive to all of his customers. It wasn't just us at our table, it was everyone. You could see his enthusiasm for being there, the focus, the care. And we didn't get anything extra than we normally
Right.
did. You know, there was
Yeah.
we were it wasn't that transaction that you're talking about. It was a relationship, and we felt great about being there, and I clearly remember it after the fact. And so I know that, you know, we're all human. We're not always going to necessarily bring that level of energy every single time. At the same time, when it comes to the values in the company, I saw the value and the service and the excellence that I know that they can offer lived out through that experience. And in attempting, like you, we can't be perfect at. We all have to grow and hope that we can encourage others to do the same. One of the things that I found that works for me and my team, at least in building that consistency and growing, getting better at it, is understanding what the values actually mean. And when you say you stand for something, giving examples, training people early as soon as they onboard. I like to actually start by sharing what our values are with the folks that we're interviewing for roles on the team so that they know from the get go if they
Right.
align
Right.
or not, and that we align. You know, it has to be mutual. And then in onboarding, explaining what does it mean when you are practicing these values, and then highlighting them and praising people when they are living them out
Yeah.
visibly
So
so
good.
that people understand and you can demonstrate. Yeah, so to your point, it's challenging, but it is rewarding and it can be done. I'm sure you have other examples too. I'd love to hear how do we make it happen?
Well, it's funny, and I think there is this disconnect, and again, I think it's because there's no mandate in terms of like, okay, time out, everyone gather around. Okay, we're not doing this right. This is actually how we function. This is what we believe about ourselves, and so, it's funny. Another example, which is, it could go on and on and on, and this one was McDonald's, and again, I've had some great experiences at McDonald's as well. So it's not a broad brush, but one of the examples was I was going through the drive-through at McDonald's one time and pulled up to the first. Yeah, I said my order, then pulled up to the next window to pay, and the person was busy talking to the customer behind me or whatever, right at the speaker, and so they just kind of put out the payment machine for me to tap. It didn't say a word to me because they're talking to the other person. So I tapped and then like, no, nothing. Okay. Yep. And then moved on to the second window. They were talking to somebody and just kind of stuck the bag out the window and I got my food and no, nothing at all. Okay. All right. And then I drove away and I went and had my food. Now, if you go to McDonald's, again, just to be clear, it's not all the time and it's not them broad brush, but one of the things they talk about, one of their values is serve. And it says that we put our customers and people first. And yet that's the kind of experience that we can often get. And so I think it's a matter of just giving ourselves permission to be present and allowing our teams, our employees to be present in that transaction. Don't worry about the next person. Don't worry about the person behind them. Right now, that same mindset of Nordstrom. Right now, that person in front of you is the most important person at that avocado toast place. And then the next customer will be the most important one you have as well. One of the things we do in the entertainment and sports industry is we call it the second experience. So the first experience is why are you here in the first place, right? I'm here to see, Garth Brooks. I'm here to see whoever it may be, the hockey team, the basketball team. That's why you're there. But the second experience is what you walk away talking about. And I remember I ran an arena at Cleveland State University called the Wolstein Center. And when I was there, we had a basketball game like we did on many nights, Cleveland State University basketball. There was a gentleman that came up to the concession stand. I happened to overhear him, and he asked if we had any coffee. If he asked the person at the counter, do you serve coffee? And he said, I'm sorry, we don't serve coffee. He's like, okay, no problem. And he walked back to his seat, and I kind of watched where he was. And so he sat down, and then I went outside, went across the street to a coffee place, got coffee. I don't know. I got cream and sugars, put them in a bag, brought over the black coffee and cream and sugars and took it down to a seat and handed it to him. And he was like, what in the world is this? Like, and not everyone is going to be able to maybe be able to do those kind of things, but it doesn't take much. It's like, well, he wants this. We don't have it, but I can get it pretty easily. And that'll be the second experience that he walks away talking about when he leaves. Did they win or lose? I don't know, but man, the guy brought me coffee. It was incredible, right? I think having that mindset of how do we elevate that experience first of all, we got to get to the point where we actually care. And then how do we elevate that experience in simple ways? Because again, it's so poorly done now that it doesn't take much to create a wow experience. I know even in the arenas where you'd have a mom with a tray of drinks and maybe a bucket of popcorn walking down for Disney on Ice, and I would go and I'd take the curtain that's over the entrance into the arena, and so she could walk through without having to struggle with that. Again, all my team were taught to do this. My team was taught to, if you see a family trying to take a picture at Disney on Ice, for example, well, take it for them so that mom or dad can get in the picture also. It's not complicated. It's just having your head on a swivel and being present to see those kind of things so that you can elevate the experience. And then again, it comes down to, are you who you say you are? I do that with me personally. Am I the husband I say I am? Am I the father I say I am? Am I the man of faith I say I am? Am I the whatever it is? Like, it's the same thing. As a company, are you who you say you are? And maybe it's time for a culture audit to kind of say, we're actually missing here. We're actually doing really well on this, but over here, this value, we could use some work. Awesome. Yeah, and maybe take it in bites as opposed to just trying to revamp everything. But I think there's opportunities there.
Such great examples, Scott. And you're speaking to a sort of mentality that I take from marketing where we want to be able to surprise and delight our customers and create that experience for them. And if you're training people in that mindset, then it becomes part of the objective and the goal, and they understand that bigger picture. And that's where I feel we as leaders have to keep the big picture in mind. And it can be so easy to get caught up in the technical. Your McDonald's story makes me think maybe it's that sort of dilemma of wanting to increase profit, and we're increasing maybe workload and volume. And so we're putting our employees in a position where they feel like they have to choose between ensuring clients, customers are moving through as quickly as possible and not keeping that focus on them when they're in the pipeline, the process, our presence, wherever that might be. And we're not giving them our attention and our focus because we feel like the goal is maybe purely financial. Maybe it is more along the lines of feeling strapped for time and a tightness around capacity. And so those limitations, whether they're put on us or we are placing them on ourselves without realizing where there's more opportunity for capacity and growth, that can create some of that distraction, and it can create that or lack of experience or a bad negative experience because we're losing sight of that big picture and the purpose. And
Yeah.
then our culture and values being that guiding North Star when we have to make a decision gets sort of cast away and put aside because we're looking back to what you were saying earlier, the data, the numbers. We're we're trying to hit our targets
Yeah.
and we forget that there's a bigger purpose out there.
Well, and I wonder if some of it is, I don't know if arrogance is the right word, but in terms of like, if I like McDonald's fries, it's the only place I can get them. Right? I mean, there are other fast food places I can go, but they don't have McDonald's fries. They've got their own. And so I think we kind of get to, if you want low prices, this is your place. And if the experience isn't great, well, that's, this is where we got the low prices. So like, yeah, I feel like there's this sort of like, I don't know if it's intentional. I don't know that it's like an intentional arrogance. I don't mean that, but it's just sort of like, look, just get them through because, we do great business. I mean, if you want food and you want it, you know what you're getting when you come to McDonald's, right? You know what it's going to be, and assuming that the order is right, as it likely is most of the time, you're gonna. It's like it's easy, it's quick. Just go through drive-through real quick and kind of move on. So yeah, they didn't talk to me at all, but you know what? I don't care. But one of the great, and this is going back to sort of what we were talking about in the beginning in a way. I went to a Wendy's, and don't judge me on my fast food stops. Like, let's be clear. I try to throw in a salad on occasion, but I went to a Wendy's here in Florida and pulled up to the speaker, and it was the clearest voice I'd ever heard. And because usually it's the sound systems are awful. Like, I mean, anyway, and it was AI. And I had not experienced that in a fast food. Like, I mean, I was telling her the order and they're like, okay, no problem. It was like, it was like, you understand me and I understand you. And this is incredible. This is a kind of a fun dance. I haven't had this before. And it was pleasant and kind. And I went up to the window and it was a great experience. And I thought, okay, so it can be amazing because that AI is programmed not to give me attitude or not to not care. Like they're just there to listen and respond. They're doing tasks, right? Like we talked about, where other people may be distracted by their phones or by a conversation with their best friend that also works with them. Or it's this one had they had my undivided attention. Like it was just like this amazing thing that happened. So I think we're gonna see more and more of that kind of a thing, which in a way is wonderful because it was a great experience. But again, sort of when we boil it down, as we talked about in the beginning, AI is artificial intelligence. It's artificial, like artificial sweetener, artificial color. It's not real. It's not authentic. It's not, they can't give you that compassion, that kindness. That's not how it works. And so I think we're going to, in the end, we just long for that. And if we can actually step up that game a little bit, man, I think it's going to be powerful. I think it's going to be a real opportunity to create loyalty with your consumer, with the customer and your employee. Like they're going to want to go above and beyond for you because they know that you care about them.
That is such a wild experience, but a great example too of how AI can seemingly, emphasis on seemingly replace us if it can do that job and create that experience better. At the same time, still going back to what you're saying, I agree. We need that human connection that only humans can offer. AI is not able to think creatively, not able to empathize with us, although the movie Her seems to be more and more real as people start to lean on AI for emotional stability and encouragement. At the same and again, emphasizing your point, it's artificial,
It's
but
artificial.
we forget that. And I think, something you said about McDonald's too, if and we could go back to Walmart, if the company values are one thing and the practice and the experience is a completely other, that's the problem. That's the challenge. If McDonald's were upfront and said, hey, you're going to get fast, quick, direct service, then I would probably be more forgiving and understanding. And then I know what the experience is going to be, which is, I think, maybe adjacent to the point as well, right? Because if we're told one thing, but we receive another, and the other is a negative or unpleasant, that's where we have that dissonance, we have that disconnect. And that's where I also think that we're on a fast track to failure too.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think it's interesting because, not everyone is like me and, has an experience at a place and then goes to the website and looks up the corporate values. Like that's just not a thing that most people do, right? And so I recognize that. But for me, it's really for the company. My mindset is for the company. And there was a time when and I think it's so funny. I was at a restaurant one time and I was taking a drink of Diet Coke, whatever, and something came up the straw and cut my tongue. I was like, "Ooh!" And it was a piece of glass that had gone into the ice, right, the ice bin of the restaurant. And so I called someone over. Again, my heart is to help you be better. I'm not asking for free. I don't want my meal comped. I don't want any of that stuff. I want you to know that I was cut drinking from your drink, and I don't want anyone else to have that experience. That's all. And so I think when these bad experiences happen, regardless, it could be a Hilton. I've had a lot of experiences, and I go to the website to look at the values because I care about the company and I want them to live up to who they say they are. And if it's failing in some way, it's not a gotcha it's I want to help you because let's actually bring this back to life. Let's like resuscitate this value that you say you have so that it can actually be something that the consumers can experience, even though they don't know you say you value this. They're not looking at that, but you say you value this and you're not living up to this. So maybe if you do, wow, imagine what the experience can be like for the consumer. And so I just think that there's a real opportunity there for companies to really take a look at how they're functioning. And, and that was really my heart when I wrote the book. And I don't do big book pitches, but, my book's called For the Love of God, Care About Your People. It's about how authentic care can transform, the workplace culture and human connection. And that's my heart. This isn't for me. This is like, how can I help you get better for those that you serve and those that you employ? How do we make that experience better through authentic care so that, man, because we're longing for that more than we think we are, I think. Ultimately we all want to feel, heard, seen, valued. every single one of us, from the CEO down to the, the frontline worker and everyone else, like, we all want that. So let's do it. Sounds simple.
Sounds simple, and you've definitely put in the work, Scott, and yet, it's something I think we all have to constantly work on, and that's the purpose of this podcast too. At the very heart of being a leader is care and having that influence, and we are not going to positively influence anyone if we can't tap into that genuine compassion and empathy for the people around us and what they're going to experience, whether it is internal or external, to your point, whomever we're serving, whether it's our team or our clients and customers. So I really appreciate your insight and wisdom around it, Scott. I love all the business examples. We're not bashing anyone in
No, not at
particular,
all.
but it's an important point, I think, to make, and I love that you highlight the larger corporations and businesses because they have a brand and they have a reputation that is very well known. And when you are putting yourself out there, whether you are a small business or not, making sure that that is your marketing and your brand and what you want to be known for and how you help and serve people is consistent internally and externally. And so we have to keep doing the work. I know it's not easy, but the simple concept is something that I think helps people understand it a lot better. And the simpler the concept, the better clarity around what the work is that we have cut out for us in the future. So
Yes.
I hope everybody will take a chance to read your book and connect with you. Where would you like people to visit you to find you online?
Yeah, you can reach out. I have a podcast called Preach Where You Reach, where you can go there at preachwhereyoureach.com, or my company's called Frog Cape. I know it sounds weird. FROGCAPE, frogcape.com. I'm also there. And you can get the book through Amazon.com or barnesandnoble.com. Either one, they've got it. And yeah, I just hope it helps someone. I think it will. I think it will.
Excellent. Well, these conversations always help me. I love the different perspective. Even when it resonates and aligns, there's still an extra nugget or two or more, definitely more, of wisdom that we can all learn from, especially myself. So I want to thank you, Scott, for being on. You are welcome back anytime. I know there's a lot more that we can mine from this, but I hope all of our listeners will grab your book. I'm going to grab a copy for myself and get in touch with you for more of that understanding and insight. And to all of our listeners, thank you so much for tuning in. Your listening and your attention is so valuable and so important. So we will catch you on the next episode of Bad Bosses, Great Leaders. Until then, thank you all.